Dive coasters are real crowd pleasers and often have some of the longest lines in their respective parks. And Griffon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Williamsburg, Virginia, and Yukon Striker at Canada's Wonderland in Vaughan, Ontario, are two of the better dive coasters out there. Both coasters are arguably the second or third best roller coaster in their respective parks, and each has some great moments. But of these two dive coasters, old school versus new school, which one is better? Find out in this coaster fight between Griffon and Yukon Striker. As two of the larger scale dive coasters, both Griffon and Yukon Striker are over 200 feet or 61 meters tall and have drops exceeding 200 feet or 61 meters. Yukon Striker is taller than Griffon and has a significantly larger first drop. Yukon Striker's first drop is 40 feet taller than Griffon's at 245 feet or 74.7 meters tall. While both coasters have vertical drops, Yukon Striker is longer and faster than Griffon. Yukon Striker is nearly 500 feet longer and a full 10 miles per hour faster than Griffon. And that length and speed make Yukon Striker the world's longest and fastest dive coaster. As the world's tallest, longest, and fastest dive coaster, Yukon Striker definitely has the better stats. Are stats all that matter though? Yukon Striker's stats are impressive, but they are only one category. How do these two dive coasters use their respective layouts? As an earlier Bolliger and Mabillard dive coaster, Griffon has a relatively simple layout. First drop into a large Immelman, followed by the mid-course brake run. A second drop off the mid-course into another Immelman, followed by a splashdown, and a sneaky speed hill, followed by the final brake run. Yukon Striker's layout does a lot more. It has the copy and paste first drop Immelman combo common to all North American dive coasters, but after that first Immelman, Yukon Striker throws in a lot more before the mid-course brake run. A 0G winder followed by a vertical loop and a snappy Immelman. Yukon Striker also has a floater airtime hill and helix before sliding into the final brake run. Griffon and Yukon Striker have good layouts, but Yukon Striker's layout is more dynamic. After the first drop, you power through 4 forceful inversions before you even reach the mid-course brake run. While its second half is not nearly as flashy as Griffon's splashdown, Yukon Striker adds one more pop of noticeable floater airtime before entering a somewhat forceful helix followed by the final brake run. In terms of layout, Yukon Striker definitely has the edge. Bolliger and Mabillard dive coasters aren't typically known for their intensity. They are meant to be graceful. But that is not to say that Griffon and Yukon Striker do not have their intense moments. While not intense, Griffon's and Yukon Striker's first drops are intimidating. That holding brake leaves you staring down at the ground with nothing else beneath you. Because Griffon and Yukon Striker's front rows are floorless, you are left dangling until the holding brake releases and you plunge down that 90-degree first drop. At the bottom of the first drop, you experience some strong positive G-forces before pulling up into the first of 2 Immelman loops. That moment on both coasters is quite intense. That is the only intense moment on Griffon though, as the rest of the ride is more about speed before that splashdown. On Yukon Striker, the Immelman is just the beginning. After the 0G winder, you pull into a forceful vertical loop followed by another snappy Immelman. Depending on when you ride Yukon Striker, you might actually gray out a little during those two elements. You cannot say the same about Griffon. So, Yukon Striker is definitely the more intense of the two. When it comes to airtime, Griffon and Yukon Striker have a handful of airtime moments. Griffon's first drop delivers great floater airtime. You also get some floater airtime coming off the mid-course brake run right before the splashdown and right before the final brakes. Yukon Striker's first drop also delivers a good amount of floater airtime. You also get a great pop of floater airtime coming off the mid-course brake run and some floater airtime on that airtime hill. Griffon and Yukon Striker have about the same number of airtime moments, but Griffon's airtime is a little better given the different restraints. Griffon has the traditional Bolliger and Mabillard over-the-shoulder restraints, which have some more room and allow for more airtime, especially down the first drop. Yukon Striker has the newer Bolliger and Mabillard vest restraints, which do not have as much room as the traditional over-the-shoulder restraints. These new vest restraints have some give to them, making the first drop that much better from an anticipation standpoint, but they do limit some of the airtime you get going down the first drop. That said, Griffon's airtime is a little bit better. Griffon and Yukon Striker are both B&Ms, so they are two of the smoother roller coasters out there. Griffon and Yukon Striker track their respective tracks well. As the more intense of the two, Yukon Striker hits the mid-course brake run with so much power and speed that you can definitely notice a sway on the mid-course before diving off of it. Griffon's mid-course brake run does not do that. The sway on Yukon Striker's mid-course brake run does not affect the ride's overall smoothness, but it is something worth mentioning. Nonetheless, Griffon and Yukon Striker are both smooth. When it comes to setting, Griffon and Yukon Striker have great ones. Both coasters are located right in the middle of their respective parks. Located in the France section of Busch Gardens Williamsburg, Griffon has a great plaza that allows you to essentially walk over and around the entire coaster. You can even look up at the coaster's lift hill and first drop from the queue. Located in the Frontier Canada section of Canada's Wonderland, Yukon Striker is the centerpiece of the entire section. While it does not have a large plaza like Griffon, Yukon Striker runs over and along park paths, allowing you to walk around and underneath the entire coaster. Much like Griffon, there are sections of the queue where you can look at Yukon Striker's lift hill and first drop. While both coasters have amazing settings in their respective parks, Griffon has the slightly better overall setting. That panoramic view of the nearby James River is amazing, especially at sunset. Though the view of Toronto in the distance is really cool. Griffon and Yukon Striker are fun and smooth rides, making them both incredibly re-rideable. While dive coasters are considered one-trick ponies, Griffon and Yukon Striker use that trick well. Yukon Striker definitely throws in a lot more, making it a more complete ride experience, but Griffon is still great. Because these two coasters are located at parks with high annual attendance numbers, securing a re-ride on either of these coasters may be hard. So definitely go to Busch Gardens Williamsburg during the week or on a Sunday to get re-rides on Griffon with minimal waits. And for Yukon Striker, make good use of the single rider line since the ride is one of the most popular rides at Canada's Wonderland. While Griffon is a great roller coaster with good pacing, Yukon Striker has the better overall pacing. Yukon Striker's first half is relentless, sending you through 4 straight inversions with no room to catch your breath. The mid-course brake run messes with that pacing a little, but that airtime hill and helix after the mid-course are 2 good elements before the final brakes. Aside from the ride experiences, Griffon and Yukon Striker each have standout elements that the other does not. First, Griffon has an awesome splashdown, which offers great visuals for guests coming from the New France section of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Seeing those towers of water never gets old. There is even a place for guests to stand as Griffon's trains traverse that splashdown, adding to your ability to interact with the ride. Second, while Griffon has a great splashdown offering great visuals, Yukon Striker has the much better theming. Yukon Striker has a Klondike Gold Rush theme, which is apparent from the moment you approach the ride. Canada's Wonderland did a great job capturing the gold prospecting theme, which definitely enhances the overall experience you get with Yukon Striker. As for something that both coasters have in common, Griffon and Yukon Striker have great capacity and operations, which helps keep the lines moving. Dive coasters are crowd pleasers and oftentimes one-trick ponies. While the dives are the main reason to ride them, Griffon and Yukon Striker are fun rides with some fun elements. Between the two though, Yukon Striker is the better overall ride experience. Yukon Striker packs in so much between that first drop and the final brake run. Its pacing is quite good, and that first half is nearly perfect. While Griffon has good power and speed and an awesome setting, Yukon Striker is a great dive coaster and a great roller coaster period. It is definitely the best dive coaster out there and a showcase of how much better Bolliger and Mabillard has gotten at designing this coaster type. So, let us know in the comments below what you think about these 2 great dive coasters and which one you prefer more. For our full-length reviews for both Griffon and Yukon Striker, you can check them out by clicking the links in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video or are new to the channel, please like and subscribe for more coaster content like this. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more coaster comparisons and amusement park content from Coaster Adventures, and we hope to see you in the next one.